Welcome to FPB's Meet the Candidates. This Cable 10 series allows you, the voter, to hear directly from candidates their views on issues that are important to us. This is leading up to the general election, where early voting starts on October 13th and goes until Election Day on November 3rd. For our interviews, we took questions via social media and email. We're going to talk about the shakeup in city government, how COVID is affecting our community, and confronting social injustice on a local level, much more. So let's jump right in. Today's guest is Kyle Thompson, and he is a candidate for City Commission. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking time to be with us.
My pleasure.
So for those who are just meeting you today, they might not have seen our previous interview with you. Tell us about yourself and why you're running for City Commission.
Sure. I'm a local business person. I'm born and raised here in Frankfort. I went to Franklin County High School, went to the University of Kentucky undergraduate. I have 5 children, 3 that are mine, 2 stepchildren as well. They range in age from 18 to 9, so I'm very busy with them. I am very active in the local business and legal communities. I own a private probation company where we do all the drug screening and home incarceration services for the local court systems and several of the jurisdictions surrounding Franklin County. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great. So how do you feel like your previous experience has prepared you for things you'll have to do on the City Commission?
So the interesting thing about my experience is that 8 years ago I ran for mayor, and I got to see the inner workings of how a campaign works in a local election, and I've taken a lot from that opportunity and then morphed into what we've done this time around. I believe personally that my 17 plus years, 20 plus years of small business experience will greatly assist me in helping in local government, because I know what local businesses and small business owners need with regard to the way the community should be governed by their city commission. So I think that's a major benefit that I have going into the race, because I've had to make a payroll and I know what it means to have other individuals that rely upon me to make sure that they have a living. That gives me a little bit of an advantage, knowing how to handle budgets and things of that nature that are very important.
Okay. Well, we're living in a different time right now, as far as obviously we're doing our interview from different locations. So how has that been for you in campaigning during COVID? What have you done, and how have you reached out to the community to get your message across and to hear from them?
Yeah, this is a unique experience that no one has really had an opportunity to have to live through prior to this. So we've really had to take a different approach when it comes to getting our message out. So we've relied heavily on social media. We have a website. We try to stay in communication and keep those things updated. But we've also have volunteers that are helping us make sure we get signs out and things of that nature. Whereas before, you'd be knocking on a lot of doors and shaking a lot of hands and kissing a lot of babies. You don't get to do that in this world. So it's important that you reach out to people in those mediums that they're able to see. So that's why it's important to have a discussion like this on Cable 10, and then also follow through with the local newspaper and the radio and things of that nature, so that everyone knows that you are running, because it's so hard to even know who the candidates are at this point, not to mention what those candidates offer. So it's just a different time. So that's what we've done to try to keep things active. But perhaps it's the best, perhaps it's not. Well, I guess we'll all learn from this experience.
All right, we'll find out soon.
That's right.
So since we last spoke, the mayor and the city commission fired our city manager, Keith Parker. So let me just ask you this. Why can't Frankfort keep a city manager on a long-term basis?
I really wish I had the reasons for that. I think they over the last 20 years, we went back and looked, and the average time that a city manager, their lifespan, if you will, as a city manager, was about 2.8 years. So it either is the fact that Frankfort is a stepping stone, or we have some ego problems in City Hall that don't allow for the city manager form of government, which is what we have here in Frankfort, to be able to work effectively. And I think that is probably a lot of it. I think the mayor and the city commission have a hard time letting go of the strings, if you will, and want to have a little bit more control than what should be ceded to them. And anytime you get a city manager who is a self-starter and very active and things of that nature, they automatically get run out of office. And it seems to be a concern that has happened over the last 2 decades. And, if it is ego, I hope that a changing of the guard, there will at least be 3, 4 new people on the city commission. So that will make a difference, I hope, with regard to the way we approach a city manager form of government, and will allow for the city to keep a city manager for a lengthy period of time.
Yeah. Well, according to the Kentucky League of Cities, only about 5% of Kentucky cities use a city manager plan. So what are the advantages of a city manager plan? And do you support that form of government, or do you think we should consider going to a mayor-council plan?
Well, I support the city manager form of government. I think it's beneficial for a number of reasons. One, the city manager is able to handle the day-to-day operations, and he gets told what the directives are from the city commission and the direction that he should move, or he or she. The reality is that he's not held then by political aspirations or connections to policies that he sets up that he have to be voted on, things of that nature. He's just out doing the business of the city, and I like that. I like the idea of somebody that's not connected politically, that is able to handle the day-to-day operations and is able to get matters done. That then leaves the city commission with the ability to handle things that are more important, like social issues and financial and budgetary issues, and giving the directives of what are needed for the city, and not getting in the minutia of the day-to-day operation. So I prefer the city manager form of government, and I think it's one that we should at least try out in reality, which we haven't done over the last couple of decades, and I think it's something we should at least give a go at.
Okay. Well, how do you think the city commission should handle the search and hiring of a new city manager? And should the current city commission fill the position, or wait until the new city leadership is in place?
I absolutely think that the new city leadership should be the ones to make that decision. You have at least 3 individuals who are leaving city government, a couple retiring. It's just, that decision should be made by the incoming city commission. The previous city commission has shown that they don't get along with the city manager form of government, that they aren't proponents of it, and I think it would be a slap in the face of whoever that individual was that may be chosen by the sitting city commission, because the new city commission is going to come in and perhaps have completely different ideas about who that city manager should be and what those directives should be for that individual. And because of that, I really think that they need to allow the new sitting city commission be able to do that. I really don't believe that Keith Parker was given the best support from the city. I believe that the new city commission should look at rehiring Keith Parker. I think he is a fine individual. I've known Keith for many years. I respect him. I think he was doing a fine job. And I don't have a preconceived notion, but I do believe that should at least be in the discussion of whether Keith should be rehired in that position.
Okay. Well, obviously, this has been a troubling issue for many in the community. So if elected, what would you suggest the city commission do to boost public confidence in government?
Well, first and foremost, we have to have confidence in the type of leadership and government that we have. And we chose many years ago to go to a city manager form of government. We need to at least make sure that we try that out, and we haven't done that. We have never allowed a city manager to be able to have the reins and handle the day-to-day operations and not worry about, if I upset the mayor or if I upset a majority of the city commission, I'm going to lose my job, or I don't necessarily have the best interest in mind for Frankfort because I'm looking to move on to another city of greater importance. We've always been a stepping stone, or not allowed the individual to have those reins. So I think it's important that we at least try the city manager form of government, and at least let the city know that we're not going to get into the minutia of the daily operations. We're going to handle the big picture ideas for the city, and really allow the city employees, the city manager, and those people who interact with the public on a day-to-day basis be able to do their job. Just let them do their job. And I think that is so crucial, and I think that will give great confidence in the public that the city knows what they're doing, and that they have a mission, and that they're striving to meet that mission every day.
Okay. As of Thursday, yesterday, there have been 499 positive cases of COVID-19 in Franklin County and 14 virus-related deaths. Do you feel like city leadership has taken an effectively aggressive role in helping our community slow the spread of the virus? And what more can they do?
Well, a lot of the directives that come down to local and city governments comes from the governor, and then from the governor it comes from the federal mandates. I honestly believe that we have done everything we can in Frankfort and Franklin County to meet the mission and goals that the governor has laid out. I feel that we have done a very good job of getting the word out with regard to what requirements are with regard to masking up, and making sure that the most vulnerable are taken care of. I think we've done a very good job of that. 500 people is a lot of people to come down with this illness. The real question is how many of those people were asymptomatic and how many of those people were really sick, and we don't really know those numbers, and we may not ever know those numbers. But the fact that 14, 15 people have lost their life because of this is a concern. But anytime anyone loses their life is a concern, and if it's an avoidable death, then we should do everything we can to avoid that. Regardless of whether politics gets involved and whether you believe you should be masking up or not, if there is a 0.1% chance that it saves the life of a grandparent or a parent, you should absolutely take all steps to with regard to taking care of everyone around you. Now, personally, I believe that I really like the idea that the local county schools had going into the summer, with the idea that they were going to have at least 50% of in-person students, and allow for parents to make that decision whether it was going to be in-person or virtual. I believe my students, the 4 children that I have that are school age, do better with in-person classes. I think that is a risk that we were willing to take, whether that means the children are masked up all day or what have you. I feel that was a good plan. I hated to see us backtrack on that plan, because I think that Mark Kopp and the school board had a good plan. So with regard to that, I think when local governments have a plan and put it into place, we need to have faith in that plan and see if it works out. I do understand that the governor came down with different directives and they had to kind of backtrack. And sometimes you have to do that as local government. But I wish we had been able to see that plan go into effect, because I think we would have been able to see the children benefit a little bit better. But that's just a personal opinion of mine.
Well, beyond affecting our community's physical health, it is also affecting mental health. The CDC indicates that younger adults, racial and ethnic minorities, essential workers, and unpaid adult caregivers reported having experienced disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, increased substance abuse, and elevated suicidal ideation. What efforts can be taken at the local level to address these associated mental health conditions?
With regard to youth and people that are vulnerable, the suicide rate is up. The rate of self-harm is up, and the rate of drug use and overdose is significantly up. I see it every day in the court systems. We have young people who are coming in and they are graduating from recreational drug use to very hard drug use, and they don't have any direction. They don't have school to worry about. They don't have um, ideas of where they want to go in life and things of that nature. And I think that because of that, we see a lot of kids who are struggling with the day-to-day lifestyle decisions that they're making. And I think that the local city and county should work towards the funding of a local drug court for the district court, so that kids and young people who have drug addiction problems can learn the benefits of staying drug-free, and also not have it appear on their record, so that they can get jobs and move forward in life. And the drug courts allow for that to happen. I think we should look towards funding of that, but I also think we should look towards some type of funding towards a self-sustaining opioid treatment facility for the local government to be involved with, because opioid addiction is something that affects all of Kentucky, and it really hurts in areas that are economically depressed. We haven't had any growth in Franklin County in 40 years. We've had 1.5% growth in 40 years. When you don't have growth, you don't have jobs. You don't have things for people to go to work and be excited about life for. And because of that, people turn to drug abuse. And because so many people do that, we need something to stand in the gap for these folks and be able to help in those areas. And I think the funding of an opioid treatment center would be great if it was self-sustaining and allow for the fix, if you will, for so many people who are struggling with drug addiction and drug abuse at this point.
Okay. Well, 4 months ago, we discussed the looming economic crisis that would result from the pandemic. And here we are now seeing the negative impact, for example, lower occupational taxes and so on. If elected, what would you do to attack this crisis?
So in America, we have about 30 million small businesses. It was estimated that if the pandemic lasted 4 months, that we would lose about 47% of all small businesses that would close forever, never reopen. And because of that, we were going to lose a significant number of people, about 30 million people in the workforce. So that was if it lasted 4 months. We're now going into month 5. So we're seeing the actual result of not being able to go back to work and open up businesses. Small businesses such as I think of Da Vinci's Pizza and places like that can only be open at 25 or 50% at different times. That you can't employ people if you can only be open 50% of the time, and most places have decided to stay closed for only takeout. So when you deal with things like that, the first goal is to get people back to work. So if we're going to lose a number of small businesses that can never reopen, we need to provide benefits to people that want to open their own small business again, because there has to be a benefit. So let's give some tax incentive and tax benefits to folks who want to open small businesses. We have to have those at the ready so that when we do have a vaccine or a therapeutic treatment that will allow for people to go back to life as normal, this idea of a new normal I can't get used to, but the reality is we're all going to have to go back to what life used to be like at some point. And when that happens, whether it's through a vaccine or therapeutic drug, that we have to have those things ready, such as tax incentives to get people back in the workforce and to create jobs. And to do that, we have to incentivize people to create small jobs and small businesses. And that's the first thing that I would do. And then, of course, I would work with the local health departments to make sure that if there is a vaccine or a health plan in place, that we can get people back to work and out in public as quickly as possible. The quicker we can get back to normalcy, then you attack all sorts of things like mental health and people needing income adjustments and things of that nature. All of that is affected by this new normal that we're dealing with. So the quicker we can work with local governments to make sure people are back to the way life used to be, the quicker we can start getting things like tax bases back to where they were and things of that nature. But it's going to be years. It's going to be years before we ever get back to a normal tax base. So we're going to have to cut spending significantly with regard to city government while also providing the same level of service. We can't lose our police. We can't lose our EMS. We can't lose our fire. We have to provide the same level of service. So where do the cuts come? And that's where hard decisions are going to have to be made with regard to city government. You know, for years, we heard about the city having a rainy day fund. If this isn't a rainy day, I don't know that we're ever going to hit a rainy day. This is about as bad as it gets. So I commend the city commission over the last 30 years for saving some of that money. But now's the time when we might have to dip into some of those funds to save some of the programs that we have, whether it's our parks programs or things of that nature, so that we provide for the families that we want to come into our community. And I think that's important that we do that. And that's what I would look to do with regard to being on the city commission.
Okay. This summer, after the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, among others, our country saw a rising movement in the calls for social justice. So my first question to you on this subject is, do Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely. I have a degree in political science, but as a portion of my degree in political science, I have an emphasis in racial and political tolerance. So my background is in an area of social justice. So even though many people look at me and they say, well, he's the conservative candidate, I have a background with regard to knowing and understanding the Black community. And I definitively believe that Black Lives Matter. I think we live in a time where if we don't help those who need help the most, then we are not doing our due diligence. We are not being good humans. And I think that we absolutely have to do that. Now, what I don't believe is that we have to vilify a group of people. We have one of the absolute best law enforcement communities in Kentucky, here in Frankfort. We have great city police. We have a great sheriff and great sheriff's deputies. We have state police. We have Kentucky State, who has their own police department. I think we have more police per capita than any other city in the state. We have great police officers. Police officers are not bad people inherently. But with any profession, there are some that need retraining. There are some that don't need to be in that particular position. And we need to find out who those people are and move them out of those positions. But we absolutely cannot defund the police. We cannot take positions that will hurt our community and will hurt the African American community the most, because they need policing in those areas too. And removing the police from those areas would only hurt those areas. I believe that what we need to do is to make sure that our social welfare programs here in the city and the county are set up so that those individuals who are at risk, whether they are African American or any other minority, are able to assist those individuals, whether it's through educational purposes, whether it's through social programs that we have. And then we work with our social services to make sure that these entities are outlined and that we provide the needs for these folks with regard to the entities that are already set up, whether it's through food services or housing services, and we provide for those people. So do Black Lives Matter? Absolutely. But to say Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that I don't believe that the police are good people, or that we don't have an individual problem that we need to address with regard to social justice. We absolutely do. But we can't do that by vilifying an entire group of people and hurting a group in the process.
Sure. Well, you touched on my next question, which is, how do you feel the city rates when it comes to effectively addressing social injustices, and how can we improve? And
Well,
how can we, maybe foster better relationships between the Frankfort Police Department and communities of color?
I think it's interesting that we have a historically Black college and university located in Frankfort, and it's as if those students come from Cleveland and Detroit and Chicago and Memphis and all these other places, and they come to Frankfort and they don't assimilate into the community. And we don't do a very good job as a community of inviting them into our community, whether it's living in adequate housing. We definitely need more housing in the area. Whether it's providing amenities for those students, we don't do a good job of that. So the first time we see these kids is when they get a speeding charge in Franklin District Court, and that's not fair to them. So we need to make sure that we do our best to reach out to the community with regard to Kentucky State University and make sure that we are welcoming to these students. And that would go a long way, but also working with local community helpers, whether it's the police, fire, EMS, and making sure that they have a good relationship with Kentucky State. And I think that would go a long way to helping with the social justice issue that we have across the country.
Okay. Well, I'll move on to our next subject, which is business related. As funding has been reduced for DFI and KCDC, do you think this minimizes the effectiveness of their missions to attract and support businesses in Frankfort? And what do you think the city can do to help support these agencies?
The problem that we have in Frankfort and Franklin County is what I said earlier. We've had 1.5% growth in 40 years, and we have not done a very good job of attracting new businesses to Frankfort and Franklin County. But we don't make Frankfort a very amenable place to bring a new family. Why would anybody want to come to Frankfort when we don't have the parks department that we need, that our schools need to be upgraded, that we have a housing shortage in Frankfort and Franklin County? Why would a big company come, or even a medium-sized company, come to Frankfort and bring 100 new jobs when we don't provide those services? So I think we do ourselves a disservice when we don't fund DFI, which has done a great job with the downtown renaissance, but also KCDC, which has never truly had a true directive of what they were supposed to be doing. And because of that, we get into a position where we have these organizations that are there to help bring businesses in, but we don't give directives, and when we take the money away from them. So perhaps in answering that question, we should, if we're going to take the money away, we should focus on the amenities that people need in this community so that a business would want to come into the community. And that means we got to make sure we have the best schools, we have the best parks programs, we have the best housing available, and all those things all the way down the line. So the city needs to step up and make sure that we have the amenities for people that want to come and move into Frankfort. Okay.
We're running a little short on time, so I'll ask you one more question before I turn it over to you. In 2021, Frankfort will have a new mayor, a new city manager, at least 2 new city commissioners, a new Chamber of Commerce director, and a new director of DFI. Those are big changes considering the gravity of local projects that are underway and coming out of what's been obviously an exceptionally challenging year. What do you see as the opportunities and challenges that these changes will provide?
Well, I'm excited because we have a lot of things that are happening in the community, whether it's dealing with parcels B and C, whether it's dealing with housing developments, whether it's dealing with the brand new school facilities that they just finished at the high schools. I'm excited about that. I really feel like this is the first time in 30, 40 years that the city and the county get a fresh slate. They get to just start over. And I'm really excited for the chance, if elected, to be able to work on that organization and just start fresh. We don't have to have this idea of that's the way we've always done it, so we're just going to keep doing it the old-fashioned way. This is an opportunity for new ideas, new faces, new brains to be able to work on old problems and new problems alike, and be able to bring a revitalization and excitement to city government. I'm actually very excited about it. When I ran 8 years ago, I didn't have this much excitement because it was still a lot of the same old, same old. This is all going to be brand new, and I think we're going to get influx of excitement of people, but it's also a chance to tell the people of Frankfort and all the public that you can have faith in city government. We're going to get the job done. We have new ideas, and we're going to make sure that things are done right. And perhaps that means that we don't do things the way they've been done the last 40 years. but that's good because 40 years of no growth is what we've been left with. So I think that's an important thing to happen, and I'm excited about it. I really am.
Okay, well, that's great. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. We're at the end of our interview, so I want you to look into your camera and tell the voters why you are the best person for the City Commission and why they should vote for you.
Sure. So I want to thank you, first of all, the Frankfort Plant Board, for allowing us to have this discussion. The idea of running for city government and local government is a big challenge. I'm excited for the opportunity to provide my experience and the opportunities that I've lived through to bring that to city government. My hope is that the voters will be able to see that I want the best for Frankfort. I want to see growth in our city and our county, and I want to see change. And because of that, I ask for their vote. If you can hear the train going by. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can go to my website, which is votekylthompson.com, or you can catch me on Facebook. You can check out our Facebook page, which has our platform and everything related to the campaign on there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know our viewers appreciate hearing from you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. It's important to get informed, so watch all of these, and then you can go voice your choice. Remember, voting starts early, so check out to when you can get down to City Hall and place your vote. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.